Welcome to the webinar, Beyond Dollars, the Power of Personalization in Financial Services. My name is Eric Wallace with Argyle, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. I have a few administrative details to share with you, and then I'll turn things over to our esteemed speakers. First, we would like to thank Freshworks and Five9 for their partnership with today's event. They've been wonderful partners to Argyle, and they're committed to providing you with valuable content and a great overall experience. Thank you again to Freshworks and Five9. We appreciate you joining us today. We welcome you to stay connected during today's event. For those of you who are active tweeters, please follow us on Twitter at Argyle Exec Forum, and be sure to follow Argyle on LinkedIn for special announcements. I also wanted to take a moment to touch on our content neutrality policy, which we've curated based on the feedback we've received over the years from our members. We've worked closely with our speaking faculty to ensure that you receive a set of balanced and neutral viewpoints during the session today, and we appreciate our members' support of this policy. Finally, and most importantly, we want to hear from you, so please submit all questions that come up during today's event into the chat section of the interface. Following the discussion, we've set aside time for our speakers to weigh in on your questions. Now, without further delay, let's have our speakers introduce themselves. Jeff, can we please start with you?
Sure. My name is Jeff Woodland, and I work for Five9. I've been in the contact center industry for so long that, I remember when the iPhone was released and how that changed pretty much everything in terms of the customer experience.
Anna, can we continue introductions with you, please?
Awesome. Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Anna Startseva, and I am Director of Product Marketing with Freshworks. I've been in customer experience, support IT solution space for over a decade now, and I have seen firsthand how much evolution the industry has gone through. So I'm very excited to be with you today to share a little bit about that evolution and what we see coming.
Great, thank you. Welcome, Anna and Jeff. We're very pleased to have both of you here today. So what we'll do today, this is our agenda for our discussion today, is first we'll cover CX trends in the BFSI industry. Then we'll move on to the challenges of personalization. We'll continue with key strategies for CX excellence. Then we'll do some customer examples, and then we'll wrap up with Q&A. So I wanted to start with the webinar with our first poll question, which is how easy or difficult is it for customers to connect with a financial expert or agent on your website? And you can see polls in the polls tab, which is on the right-hand side of your screen right next to the chat. So we're getting some answers coming in. Majority of respondents say, oh no, it's not the majority anymore. There were a lot of very easies at the beginning.
Yeah.
I have to say,
sorry, Jeff. Yeah. Go ahead. Share. You had a wonderful example during our practice. I would love for listeners to hear more about some of your examples.
Yeah. Well, I took my mom to her bank last Friday, actually to two banks last Friday, and it all kind of, it was such an example of where we are right now in financial services. I drove her to her first bank to roll over a CD. We walked in, it went great. Drove her to her second bank, and it wasn't. It was like 30 minutes before closing time on a Friday. So I think 4 p.m. with her bank, and there was just a bunch of people. So we stood in line for about 20 minutes. And when she got there to the teller to speak, the person, no one had the ability to roll over her CD, so she had to postpone. During that 20 minutes, I actually opened up my phone and I checked my banking app, and I realized, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have much more money in my account than I thought. Which is great. I'm in her bank, but I'm checking my bank. And then I realized, like, oh my God, I didn't pay my mortgage. So I'm like, so while in her bank's queue, I, scheduled the mortgage payment and I paid it. I also checked my email, and I had an email from the mortgage provider, and I'm like, crap. And so I opened up the email, and it was just odd because they wanted to refinance my payment. My payments had nothing to do. I was totally fine, but it didn't make sense financially because I know what my interest rate is. I know what they're proposing. So I called my mortgage guy and I got him, and he's like, disregard that email. I'm like, oh boy, is everything cool? And he's like, yeah, everything's great. And I'm like, okay. So I got off the phone, and that's when actually my mom was ready to talk to her banker face to face and find out that they couldn't help her. And what was so weird about that whole experience, like all within a compact 40 minutes, is I'm like, this is where we are. My mom probably could have rolled over those CDs by phone or maybe even online, but she doesn't know how. And that's how she does her financial services. Whereas myself, like, I did everything in line, totally virtually. And the mortgage broker, who totally has my back, like I've actually never met him. He lives somewhere in my community, but he easily could live across the US from me. And a mortgage is a big financial commitment, and yet all of that relationship is entirely virtual. But I know that he gets me because everything has been personalized from the get-go.
Yeah. So such disparate experiences, right? Like you expect things to be quick and easy once you're in person, but actually it wasn't. Whereas you were able to do most of the things digitally, most of them, except for the one snafu where the bank wasn't able to super personalize your experience, even though you've been a customer for a long time. So like it's getting better, it sounds like, but not yet 100% great. And that's what we're going to talk about in this webinar, about the power of experiences from in-person personalization to actually doing personalization at scale. So let's see what the answers tell us. Eric, do you want to share the answers?
Sure. We've got 12% say very easy. We've got 35% say somewhat easy. 29% say neither easy nor difficult. 24% say somewhat difficult, and nobody said very difficult.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. My bet was on neither easy nor difficult. That's kind of where I sort of find myself as being part of this industry. All right, great. So let's continue with our chat, and we'll see where we're going next.
Let's kick off our discussion with a question. That is, in today's world, providing financial services involves more than just transactions. It's about delivering personalized customer experiences. 77% of customers rate personalization as highly important for financial services. And 77% of business leaders also recognize that deeper personalization leads to increased customer retention. 66% believe it lowers acquisition costs. So our first question is, how has personalization evolved in the BFSI industry over the past few years, and what factors have driven this change?
Yeah, I think let's go ahead to the next slide, Eric, and we'll also give you another speaking opportunity. We have kind of a customer example that I think is pretty common. We're going to share lots of real life examples with you guys throughout the presentation to make it real. So I think that's one of them. And then we'll go ahead and kind of link that to the discussion of how we think the industry is changing.
Sure, I'll just tell this customer stories, and then you and Jeff can respond. This is Meet Jane.
Oh, great.
She is thinking of changing her bank. She was happy at first, but she has some issues after a few years as a customer. She is frustrated by long wait times, time-consuming processes, playing call tag with her customer service representatives. So the first challenge is that Jane is frustrated by long wait times, time-consuming processes done by email, and phone tag with her customer service representatives. And her second challenge is Jane feels like the bank should know her better and deliver advice based on her current income level and lifestyle instead of generic communication.
Yeah, so a little bit similar. The second challenge, I guess, is a little bit similar to what Jeff experienced during his interaction, where like there was good communication, but not quite. They didn't quite get it right based on where you're at in your life and your experiences with the bank. Yeah. So let's go ahead and get started with I think the next slide of how we can where are we at today with the industry. Awesome, thank you. So how are businesses addressing customer service challenges today? So let me go ahead and take you to the first slide. So, hey, we have a lot of expectations, right? Today, after all of our interactions with the likes of Amazon and Netflix, customers just have greater expectations of what service needs to do for us today. We expect many interactions now to be automated, right? So we want to make sure that there is something quick and easy for us to interact with to get certain information from your banks and financial institutions around kind of what is the balance or certain due dates, easy tasks that people expect now to get on the fly. But we also expect our financial institutions to know us based on our history. So I think people are more accepting these days about financial institutions and other providers to have and to keep all that personal information they have on us, but to use it wisely and for good, right? So these are some of the things that are an expectation from I think a customer side from all of us, right? And I think also there are some things on the company
side. Can I comment on those expectations? Like I think like when I look at financial services, I think like that the personalization has always been there. There's no way you should bank with someone you don't trust. Um, and like from the get-go, it was all about like the physically like walking into banks or whatever the financial institution is, and you have that face-to-face connection or you have that handshake. And that's like been built into financial services DNA forever up until right now. And then we had that pandemic, and the pandemic, I think, like you still want the personalization, you still require trust and really good communication, but how you shop has changed. And so the expectations, I think, have evolved much more differently so that customers are much more demanding, but their journey is very, very
Mhm.
different. Like in the past, like with my mom, you walked into the bank and that's where you did your business. Whereas today, like you open up Google and you start comparing financial products based on what you find from home, because everyone is now much more home centric and much more digitally savvy. And so the expectations is that it was what you get on the left. And that's like was all got fast forwarded during the pandemic. So customers are like essentially Google first and or they use their mobile, their mobile apps. And like that's really, really hard if like you cannot make that shift to how do you personalize your relationships with your customers when you can't meet them in person. And so like understanding that journey from, let's say, the web to virtual conversations to maybe in face-to-face conversations, like how do you do that with these customers, like all of us, where we have these faster, more like digital expectations. It's a much harder place to do business than it was before. And then like, and that's just the expectations world. Like Anna, like you pointed out on the right, like we have that reality to deal with.
Yeah, and that's where a lot of companies are finding themselves now. So a lot of the prospects and companies we work with, they come in and say, hey, we understand the journeys are becoming more and more complex across digital, social, voice, chat, live chat, you name it. And then, coming into the systems and for agents to have to deal with all that. So there's a lot of systems that many companies have acquired in order to fulfill those expectations. So many would have a one solution for a social channel, another solution for their chat, another solution for live chat, and then it may, if you have a global company, then it's different across regions. So imagine you have a single customer on one end that expects you to know them, right? And then you have all these different systems with siloed data on the other end. How can an agent deliver that highly personalized experience to every customer when they have to go through different systems to stitch together this view of the customer? It becomes more and more difficult for an agent to get their job done right. And of course, also difficult for the IT operations team to keep all these systems integrated and maintain them. So it's hard to be in the support space right now. I think it's difficult.
I'd also add on the expectations is like, the customer experience also rests on the employee experience. And coming out of the pandemic, like what we're seeing at Five9 within financial services is that there is a lot of turnover in call centers that is very different from what happened before. And it seems like there's like a great resignation where the employees who did come back, they have like a greater expectations about the type of work that they have. And if they're not engaged with their work, if it's too hard to do, like opening up different apps all over the place to try to get one customer interaction complete, they'll leave. And so like not only are customers more demanding, but our employees are more demanding. And solving that is really, really hard when you look over on the right side of the screen, you have that reality of fragmented systems that were never really designed to work together.
Yeah. All right, but it's not all doom and gloom. We're going to give you some.
Yeah, I know it isn't.
All right, let us go to the next leg. So how can businesses be successful in this environment, and also how can they up level their CX? Because we see customers do that all the time, right? So let's go ahead and get started with this. All right, so here's how a lot of us in the industry see the future of where B2B and B2C companies are going now. There's one very important prerequisite. Jeff, I know you have a great talk track on that. Moving to cloud.
Well, I absolutely moving to the cloud. If you want to punch above your weight level, in financial services, if you're like a small or medium financial service and you want to kind of just improve both the employee experience and the customer experience, and not only like, let's talk about the IT experience, like move to the cloud. There's so much possibilities that you gain by moving off on-premise systems, because like, first of all, just on a simple IT level, you can, scale your systems much more easily, especially in the contact center. And then you also can offload a lot of maintenance hassle and integration hassles that the provider of that service from the cloud takes on upon themselves. And, that's just like on the easy fundamental level. And then recently we're seeing so many advances that you can access through cloud-based services, like, in terms of security, like voice biometrics, or, using better routing where instead of having to go through an IVR, you just talk to, a voice bot or a chat bot, and then that will do the routing so that to connect the customer with the best possible employee, and you really can get all these contact center capabilities that were previously reserved for, big banks with lots of money.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the cloud is kind of the start of the journey, right? For many of the companies that we're seeing. And then looking at the support stack and the solutions provided, like Jeff said, so Five9 does voice really, really well. The voice is not going away. We still want those voice interactions when things get hard, or, for folks that are just used to that type of way of doing business. Voice is never going to go away. So there's always going to be a need, and it needs to be done right for your customers to have the trust that you're delivering to them, and you're personalizing and you're thinking of them, right? But of course, there are other ways that customers want service now. So what we're seeing more and more is that companies want to have something up front to make sure that their customers can get answers quickly, easily through self-service. So you can call that deflection, right? So there are various ways to deflect. You can do that through knowledge base, and that's how it's been traditionally done, right? Where the customer goes online, they look on the website, they find the information they need, and then they kind of deal with that, right? But more and more, and that's the way I work. I'm sorry, I'm not going to go and look at the knowledge base and like go through a giant database. That's just not how I work. I want quick answers now, right? So then that's where digital comes in, and that's where SMS comes in, right? So folks want quick answers on channels like SMS, Apple Business Chat, or if you're a global company, WhatsApp is huge worldwide, everywhere else except for United States, it seems. So those are the type of channels where people can get answers quickly by deflecting questions, and then a live agent never even needs to be part of the interaction at all. So then they can spend more time on those in-depth conversations with other customers where their human help is really, really needed, right? So we see more and more customers do the automation first, the deflection route through digital channels, and then do the in-depth conversations through something like a ticket management platform where you can have your good escalations, you can have great collaboration system where different parts of the company can work together to deliver the right answer quickly and easily, where they all have access to the ticket information, or a ticket can be sort of divided into parts, and different members of teams can work on those different parts, and then put the work back together and deliver that to the customer seamlessly. So that's the way that we're seeing businesses evolve their support in order to deliver fast and personalized experiences to their customers now.
I would also add that, like, we've seen with some of our Five9 customers, when they do open up that digital channel, let's say chat, that you can get a lot of traction really, really quickly. And so, one of the things that's really, really interesting about the availability of AI in the cloud is that you can open up your chat channels, but also make sure that, like, maybe that's the opportunity to have AI-powered chat responses available at the same time, because that chat channel for a few of our customers shot up real quick, and all of a sudden they had to think through, like, where are they going to put, essentially, how are they going to schedule the workforce, and where are they going to put all that data? Because like centralizing your data for your voice channels and your chat channels all in one place, so that you understand the volumes that are hitting your people and when that's happening is absolutely crucial. Because if you open up a chat channel and the response time is like maybe a 1 minute delay, it's going to get shut down and your customers are not going to use it. So, like absolutely digital is the future. You have to provide it, because people like my mom, like she's going to want to go in person, but there's other, like the younger demographics really want these digital channels, and, they must be available.
Yeah, we expect that. I mean, I that's what I'm looking for in my bank, right? To be able to communicate and get answers quickly on the go. Yeah, and like you said, all these channels for the backend for your agent, the information from all the channels needs to be available quickly and easily to the agent. So ideally in a single workspace where you can have all the information from your voice channels as well as digital, as well as the email channels available. With customer information as well there, so that they can an agent can quickly see kind of what's happening right now, who am I talking to, what types of things can I offer to this customer, right? So they can talk to this customer with great.
It's that moment of personal.
Go ahead. Yeah.
It's a moment of personalization. Like, when the agent, like, let's say you're in Freshworks and you have the ability to pull all the channels together, is that it doesn't matter that it went from a voice to a chat, the history is right there.
Yeah.
So the personalization is immediately made. Like that's a fantastic capability.
Yeah.
Because if you can't personalize on that first touch, that first moment, then all of a sudden you're starting to regress. And people like me, like I trust my broker because he's always there and he knows who I am.
Absolutely. Yeah. So lots of things to take in now here, and we're gonna move it up a notch and talk about another great and exciting topic. I think Jeff kind of started us off on AI and the power of AI to deliver some amazing experiences. And I think all of us in the industry, and I'm sure all of you, are super excited and following closely what's happening with AI as well as GPT powered interactions. So the ability to do more automatically through GPT with human-like prompts without the need to code or do complex workflows, where you can communicate with technology as if they're a human and get quick, immediate, mostly correct answers back. So very exciting time for the industry right now. I'll let Jeff open up and then I'll complement with what we see at Freshworks. Go ahead, Jeff.
We didn't think of this poll, but a good poll to do is if anyone knows what GPT stands for. In preparation for this webinar, I actually had to look it up. And if we had like yes, no, maybe, like I think most people would not know that it stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer, which is like, oh boy, to me, that's a big signal that this technology is at the very beginning of something massive, because we're using terms that no one understands. When I look at GPT, the way I think about it, it's, if I had to boil it down, what this GPT powered AI can do, it's like a faster way to find the words that you need. So it's kind of like autocorrect, but it works in whole paragraphs. And what's fascinating about it is that its ability to go out into massive quantities of databases, like everything that could be on, let's say, Wikipedia or books or places that other like massive quantities of conversations have had, grabs all that stuff, and then it starts suggesting what you could use. And it's really fast. And my high schooler is now using it to make his essays faster. But at the end of the day, you still require people's judgment. It cannot run on autopilot. And wow, it saves so much time, which is really great in financial services, because like for agents or for managers, like if an agent needs to summarize a customer conversation, you can use GPT to do it pretty well, or suggest, the correct customer disposition to close out a conversation. Like that's great, especially for new agents or employees who may not understand how to work within your financial services. And then it also has the ability, and I've seen this when we've done testing, is that it does evaluate the conversation pretty well. And I keep on saying pretty well, and I keep on hedging my bets. It is not perfect at all. You need people and their judgment to use to work with it. but it's like a calculator. Like, yeah, I could do a lot of my calculations long form, but I'd rather use a calculator to save time. And then if you flip it over on the employee, the management side, if you need to write agent scripts, GPT is pretty good at that in terms of speeding up the time. Same thing with if you want to write a customer survey and you're kind of thinking like how to phrase it, how to keep it short and tight, it's very helpful. And then of course, it also can analyze customer feedback to help understand what's going on. So like net, it expedites your work. It makes a lot less mental work for you to do. And you can save that energy to personalize the conversation with your customers to make them feel like you get them.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeff gave it a great introduction. He did a lot of research for you guys and made his high schooler use it for his essays too, it sounds like. Way to go. Nice.
Yeah.
Way to leap into technology. Yeah. So at Freshworks, I think we have a pretty good understanding of and experience with using AI for a variety of use cases when it comes to CX, because CX is agents, right? So there's lots of great ways to automate with human-like understanding, right? So if you ask GPT, where do they see the most use cases for it? It will tell you customer experience, actually. So this is the perfect way to apply AI and GPT to your customer experience context. So we see at Freshworks 3 ways that AI and GPT powered capability will transform customer experiences. And we're like already there. We've been using AI since, 2018, 2017. We've been using GPT first versions in our betas as well as in customer features for the last few years, and we're just continuously rolling it out. And now with the availability of new GPT features, our customers are already kind of on board with some of them. So I'll cover that. So very exciting. I can't wait to see results and improvements to share with all of you. So number 1, hyper-personalization. Huge area where AI and GPT-powered interactions can help, right? So think of it, GPT as being able to really understand in almost human ways what customers are talking about and to provide those answers. So Jeff mentioned summaries of conversations, for example. So imagine you're going across different departments working on a customer ticket. How do you get all this information summarized quickly for the manager, for instance, to review what's happening, right? GPT can instantly provide a summary in a few sentences that you can send off to your manager to get their approval or additional information, etc. Agents no longer have to type it long form or to call their supervisor to do that. Summarizing emails, creating good emails, also creating knowledge-based articles based on different types of information. Those are really, really great ways to hyper-personalize with that. Okay, moving on to this area of predictive engagements and features that your agents would love. So imagine a situation where an agent is live on a call with a customer, and they're a new agent. They don't necessarily know how to solve every single problem. So there could be an agent assist that provides them with real-time answers, information, workflows to take that customer through in real time. That will most likely result in a positive answer and experience for that customer. So that you're providing, real-time assistance to your agents and at the end, improving that customer experience and taking that up a notch. What customer support department wouldn't like to be a revenue generating department, sort of have a seat at that table, right? So imagine AI also providing suggestions to agents in real time on different upsells, services, products, different upsells for your existing customers while they are in conversation with that customer. So again, hyper-personalized exactly to your customer based on all the information that you have on them. Great use case for unleashing revenue. And number 3, optimized operations. The use case that I really love, it speaks to me, is the ability to instantly get your 3 most important things you need to do today, for example. So imagine you're a supervisor, you have so much going on, everything is always burning on fire. But what are the 3 things that are really going to move the needle for you today? So AI powered by GPT would be able to go and find that information for you based on all the data that is available. So you no longer have to go and dig through every single spreadsheet or have constant conversations with your colleagues. That information would be coming to you at the beginning of every workday to really center and make your day more productive. So these are all examples of use cases that we're unleashing for our customers today, right? And lots of exciting opportunities. This is just the beginning, right? The space is ripe for new ideas and for opportunities that everyone can take advantage of. And Jeff did you notice something interesting? The fact that the information is mostly right or sometimes right, and it really depends, right?
Yeah.
So it depends how you ask a question of a system, right? So the more information you give it, the better the answer is, but at least it's in human form so that anyone can ask a question, as long as you can ask that question. You don't need to be able to code. So all of a sudden it opens opportunities for a variety of people to become really good at what they do, right? With prompts, no longer clicks, so coding. So it's a very, very exciting time with AI and the GPT powered capabilities today. All right, so I think we did this slide justice, and let's go ahead and move on and provide a couple of examples of how companies are using our technology to deliver great customer and employee experiences.
So Five9, we've been doing cloud contact center as a service for over 20 years. We're one of the founders of this particular space, and we do have a lot of customers in the financial services sector. I arrived at the Round Point Mortgage story because I thought it was really, really great. What I thought was really interesting is that, like a lot of small and medium-sized financial institutions, they were stuck with existing on-premise telephony solutions, and it was not allowing them to scale. Their reporting was primitive. So tabulated reports with these really funny acronyms across the top that, unless you came from an IT telephony background, you had no idea what it meant. And then they wanted a predictive outbound dialer. Another thing that was really key is that they were very attuned to the fact that customers were digital first. They were arriving at their website and they had a trouble of transferring people who wanted to talk about something they saw on Round Point Mortgage's website and get them over to someone as soon as possible. And then lastly, and they turned to us in the middle of the pandemic, is that they needed to get agents working from home as soon as possible. And so, with Five9, we do inbound and outbound blended contact center. So it's the same solution that can, manage massive amounts of calls coming inbound, as well as getting your calls pushed outbound on the same solution. So it's easier to do administration, and it's just easier. The other thing that we added for them to work with was something called a visual IVR that we put on their website so that customers would navigate to what they wanted, schedule a callback and not have to wait. And then, they were able to get 100% of their workforce into working from home in 1.5 weeks. And the person, Fabian Russell, who's the assistant VP of call center operations, he had actually worked with Five9 before, and he was just like, this is who we need to work with. They're great. And, he is now our champion at Round Point Mortgage. And it was a very successful story in terms of telephony and working from home. So that's one example of what you could be doing with Five9.
Awesome. Thanks. Now let's talk about Freshworks. So Freshworks has about 60,000 different customers all over the globe across our different solutions, one of which is our customer experience suite. So Klarna is our customer. Klarna, of course, is one of the largest online financial services providers, helping customers all over the world purchase things over time. So some of you might be familiar with Klarna, others with its competitor Affirm, but they essentially do the same thing, where you can sort of buy something and pay for it in installments digitally, right? So as you can imagine, Klarna, it serves 80 million, 100 million customers now, and it has a lot of questions that are coming in for a variety of issues. And trust is a huge thing. So for Klarna, when they were moving their customer support onto more digital channels, they wanted to make sure that there was this trust element that was preserved. And that meant delivering answers quickly, accurately to customers all over the world. So then what they've done with us is we've helped them enable on chat. So that's, of course, the first stop. So all L0, L1 queries go through chat. That's a point of deflection for Klarna, right? So most of the queries are handled there. And then if there's in-depth questions that the system cannot solve, either with AI bots or with live chat, then it goes on to kind of the help desk component, where there are, again, teams working on a ticket with great routing capabilities, collaborations, escalations available to them to get an answer to those customers quickly, efficiently, right? So Klarna is a great example of what we can do for financial services customers, because it's a company that decided that, yes, we want that digital first experience to power our great platform and our business. And they're delivering on it every single day. So even when we started working with them, again, maybe 2018 or so, they wanted that 60-second first response rate time. So really quickly, you want to get back to the customers immediately so that they know that you're taking care of them, you're there to listen and to support them. We were able to deliver on that expectation even back in the day, and now it's, we keep delivering and it's getting even better, right? And we also help them move from kind of calls and emails into the digital first era with kind of the messaging and social first, right? So we've helped them increase their chat queries by 3, which is, again, a good thing, because most of those are then deflected or processed automatically, so that the agents are freed up to do more in-depth work. So here's a great quote from our partners at Klarna. We needed a partner that would iterate fast with us and listen to feedback and be able to innovate with us quickly. And they found that with Freshworks. So Klarna is a great example for us because of its scale and the willingness to innovate and, do great things on behalf of its customers. And it's really pushing the company and all of us to kind of keep up and be able to provide that kind of scale with digital, as well as digital conversational, I should say, and ticketing support experiences at scale. All right. So those were the 2 examples. And let's go ahead and see what's next. Oh, I think our next experiences are all around questions and interactions with you all. So I'll head it over to Eric.
Great. Thank you both for that excellent discussion. And just as a reminder, audience members can still enter questions. And we're going to go over some of the questions that we've gotten so far. The first of which is, I'd like to know more about the role of customer feedback in refining personalization efforts in the BFSI industry. How can institutions effectively gather and use this feedback to improve their services? Jeff, do you want to take the first swing at that?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I've seen getting customer feedback is absolutely essential, and just some quick tips on it from watching different customers work with this. Keep the survey short as possible. SMS is a great channel for if you want it fast and short. The other, and this is really on the back end, is that you want an integrated customer survey solution that can auto-populate the data back into the database itself, like Freshworks, so that your customer history and your customer survey data is all in one place. It makes it so much easier to understand what is going on. With Five9, you can actually do that, and we have a built-in integration between Freshworks and Five9, which is super. And the key there, I think, is, well, what Five9 could be doing to help personalize that is you can do like mass SMS. You can do, very quick automated surveys after the end of every interaction, if that is what you wish. But it's also to get the customer's buy-in, is understand what their preferences are, so that when you do outbound, you have a degree of how important is this? If customers only want to be contacted, let's say 1 time a year, or if they want to be contacted after every interaction, you need to know what that is.
Yeah, I think Jeff summarized it in a great way. I think Customer support interactions need to be part of that feedback that's going into the different teams. It also allows customer support professionals to kind of have a seat at the table and affect those customer experiences that the company is building out. And I think in the future also, there will be great opportunities for AI and GPT-enabled features to go through that massive data and provide us and you practitioners with great insights pretty automatically, again, with from your customer interactions, perhaps in real time maybe. So I think be on the lookout for that in the future as well.
The question is, I
Okay.
work for a small BFSI organization, and I'm interested in learning how we can effectively compete with larger institutions when it comes to personalization and customer experience. Do you have any advice or recommendations?
Yeah. Well, I think as we presented today, I think now technology is the great equalizer. You all have access to the same technology as everyone else out there on the market, right? I presented a story about Klarna and how they're able to work with digital in order to deflect a lot of the support queries, but at the same time still provide that personalization and trust to their customers with agent-assisted interactions, right? So they're able to do it on a great scale, but nothing is stopping, differently sized customers from taking advantage of the same technology. And even I should say before, right? Like think about AI and big data used to be a huge thing, and companies would spend millions on access to that, on access to people, to data scientists. Those were extremely expensive because I used to work in that space. So I used to work with a social media analytics platform that crunched through all the data on the internet. It's an expensive technology, right? But now with GPT, guess what? Everyone has the same abilities. Like this is a great leveler. The technology is a great leveler. Now companies have access to the same opportunities as bigger institutions with all this great technology coming out. So be empowered.
I would add also that like one of the things that went mainstream because of the pandemic was working from home, and that can be a great advantage for smaller financial institutions that previously had to recruit their talent locally. And what you can now do is you can find people who are in places that perhaps have a lower cost of living, so therefore you can find more competitive rates for better talent. And that can, because, customer experience rests on the employee experience. And if you can find great employees who may not be in your zip code, well, everyone is now moving to virtual conversations. So the location of your employee doesn't matter as much. And by moving to the cloud, you can take advantage of they just need like a headset and a fast internet connection. Now with solutions like Freshworks and Five9, with Freshworks, it has a centralized data place as well as the agent screen. And then with Five9, you do have the reporting technologies to keep on top of these people who are working, let's say, outside of your typical geography. So I would strongly consider looking at work from home as an option to up-level your talent.
Great.
Great advice, Jeff. Yeah.
Thank you. The next question is, we are struggling to build the business case for greater personalization in our customer support. Do you have any advice for us?
Yeah. I mean, if so, I will answer it as like the inside out, I guess, perspective. So within Freshworks, when we start working with companies, we help them build a business case. We have a team called Value Engineering, and what they will do for prospects is they will sit down with you and help you build that business case. So oftentimes that involves either going on site or via the phone, shadowing your agents and their supervisors for a certain period of time, perhaps a couple of hours, half a day, right? And then also asking different questions around how long it takes to go through a particular workflow, how much the agent time costs, et cetera, et cetera. And then we can build out those business cases for companies to go ahead and move to different, better technology like Five9, like Freshworks, that provide better, more modern, in some cases even more affordable tools for companies to reach their goals around personalization, providing faster support to their customers, and also improving operations and costs around operations.
I would add on top of that is that, the key now to personalization is mastering the virtual conversation, because like my experience with my mom is like, I spent 45 minutes pretty much not getting half of what she wanted done. Whereas I got everything done that I wanted in 5 minutes, and it was not a face-to-face conversation. So by mastering the different communication channels, such as voice or chat or SMS, you at least are able to provide that path to start having personalized conversations. And then on the other side of it, so you really need to assess, how well is your data supporting you? Is it centralized? Is it easy to work with? And then on top of it is, after those conversations happen, try to automate proactive surveys to get the conversation information about how it went back into the data. And then you can start targeting what needs to improve.
Great, thank you. So next question is, what's the biggest mistake you've seen financial services companies make in trying to improve their customer service, and how did they get past it?
Oh, like me offering me to change my interest rate to something that's inferior. My God, that shook me real cool. I was like, wait, that upset me. And because I had that personalized virtual relationship with my mortgage broker, I brushed it off. I realized that they have two different databases in two different departments, and they made a big, colossal mistake, because it hit the trust. But because I trusted that one individual, it's water under the bridge. It's like right there, get your data
trust. Right. So, well, luckily, Jeff works in the industry and he understands that there is siloed data that his institution is kind of, has. But if you're just talking to any consumer, as soon as trust becomes an issue, that's huge. That's where you kind of move on. So the bank doesn't know you. They're sending you different things that are completely irrelevant, and they're doing it often. And at some point, you just decide you're not interested. So that's huge. So again, getting that personalization right is huge. And I will say one more thing that turns a lot of people off in financial industry and others are when people, or in the past, I should say, in the past, when AI was not so good and companies wanted to go ahead and automate as much as possible. They're like, okay, we're going to put bots first. There's going to be a bot on my website, a bot for mobile experience, etc. But the bots weren't set up right to handle the flows where, the questions that were asked were just not getting the right answers to, and customers got extremely frustrated with that experience. That was a huge turnoff. I think in today's world where you can build very intuitive flows for your bots, again, using GPT, you could build great bot flows instantly without much coding or any coding, right? I think it becomes much easier for companies to deliver a great degree of personalization based on all the great data they have about each one of us in their databases, right? So hopefully those issues will start going away. But I think in the past, it was also those upfront experiences that customers would have where they can get help quickly and easily through digital channels as well.
Great, thank you. This next question is sort of future looking, and that is, what advancements in personalizing customer service do you see coming online over the next couple of years?
I would say that we're seeing such great advances right now happen with AI and with GPT. I would expect like one of the few advantages I'd say in all this transformation with virtual conversations is that by moving people into the digital world is that there are a ton of digital data available. So you can capture those transcripts that happen, you can auto record. And so where I see things evolving is that by using technologies like GPT, the AI self-service is going to get much better. And that's, I think, where essentially a lot of the menial grunt work that no one wants to do will be done by GPT, and then by GPT-powered AI bots at all hours at the customers and on the customer schedule. So that's where I see things is essentially better AI, better self-service, and then still a relentless competition on personalizing that relationship. Everyone will be competing on it. If you don't, you're going to be left behind.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Jeff. He's hitting all the right topics, right? Yeah, AI is the future, powered by GPT technology now, right? That's going to be leading the way to these automated but human-like experiences where the customer will never know, are they talking to a human? Are they not talking to a human? You don't know. Maybe,
I did,
yeah.
yeah.
And another area, I just want to
did,
say, how about each of us has a virtual assistant and they do all the work so that we do nothing and something else takes care of all the busy work for us automatically, and we don't even have to think about paying those mortgages, etc., because that AI assistant takes care of all the busy work.
I would love that. I need one.
I'm sure your mom would too. Yeah. All right.
All right.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have today for questions. Thank you, Anna and Jeff, for that insightful session. This concludes today's webinar, and I want to thank everyone for joining us today for this excellent virtual event. And thank you again to our partners, Freshworks and Five9, and enjoy the rest of your day.